Hello, friends, and welcome to the Mark Richt Show, brought to you by Williamson Automotive. Joe Zagacki alongside my broadcast partner, Don Bailey Jr. The coach, Mark Richt, joins us momentarily. The Hurricanes coming off a bye week after, Don, a very tough loss, one of the toughest we've been around in a long time against Virginia.
It was, Joe. It was as bothersome as anything, including the Pitt game of last year. But I appreciate the off week. I think it works two ways. I think it lets the players understand how bad this loss was, let it sink in a little bit, let them understand that there's a lot of people involved in this program that it affects, and let them also have the week to learn, to get better physically, to get rested, to get stronger, to understand the mistakes that they made. Coach said that they spent a ton of time reviewing the mistakes and identifying the people that made them, and then spent even more time trying to rectify them.
There was a quarterback change in the game and a quarterback change going into the Boston College game. You and I were talking about the quarterback change in the game, which has brought a lot of different opinions. And I said, I think I understand it. If you're watching the game on TV, you kind of feel like, well, gee, it was fast. But if you're in the stadium like we were, and you saw, it felt like an avalanche, and you felt like, man, something has to happen right now, because you can feel this thing slipping away. I think that's why Coach Richt made that switch in a hurry.
Yeah, and the avalanche was the first quarter. Miami only had the football for about 4 minutes and 13 seconds or thereabouts, and Nikosi's first drive, I think, was on downs. The second was a punt, and then you have interception, and both of those interceptions were somewhat familiar. They kind of look the same to me. And you have an experienced eye on the sideline in Mark Richt. He played the position, he coached it, coordinated it for many, many years, and is still coordinating it, and has been around all different types. So you have to rely on what he sees and what he's being told from the press box. You've got a lot of people in your ear and in your headset giving you all the information that you ask for, and it's not, these decisions are not from the hip.
I thought right to the very end, Miami would find a way to pull that game out, but eventually there were just too many self-inflicted wounds.
There's no question about that. I think that there were too many penalties, as was well documented. Too many things went wrong. And there was a lot of young football players on that field. There was one clip that I see that you have Mallory at tight end, who's really built like a receiver. You have Jordan, who's had a phenomenal year. He might be a two-time All-American before he leaves here, if you count this year as one. And you've got DJ Scaife, who's starting his first game at right tackle, and a true freshman, a redshirt freshman that started at quarterback. So when you have that youth mixed in with that type of environment against a very experienced team in Virginia, it makes for a long day, and you cannot make mistakes time and time again because it's just too much to overcome.
The Canes will play Boston College on Friday night at 7 o'clock from Chestnut Hill. I'll look back at the Virginia game. Our highlights brought to you by Williamson Automotive. Thank you for being with us here on the Mark Richt Show, brought to you by Williamson Automotive. Joe Zagacki, Don Bailey Jr., University of Miami head coach Mark Richt. This week the Hurricanes on the road against Boston College for a 7 o'clock kickoff from Alumni Stadium. We'll get to that and the emotional game that it's going to be and all that. Coach, touch a little bit on Virginia. We're kind of past Virginia, but we'll touch on that just briefly. And into the bye week or out of the bye week, and made a quarterback change or went back to Malik Rose.
Yeah, sure did.
So,
I'll say this first of all I'll start with Malik and how he handled the moving to second team early in the season. Really proud of him and how he responded. I mean, he was disappointed, and obviously early on the first couple of days were tough. But he kept his poise and he kept his spirits up, and he handled it, like you would hope a guy would handle it. He got back in the meeting room and began to continue to be prepared in case his moment came again, and was very good to Nkosi and in trying to help him, and anything we asked him to do, he did, and he did it with a good attitude. So, I was proud of how he handled that part of it. And then, of course, all of a sudden this thing turns back. Now he's back in the saddle as the starter, and he probably has a little greater appreciation for it. But if he didn't handle the disappointment as well as he did, it may not have worked out for him.
Coach, when you've dealt with quarterbacks forever, and of course played the position, explain when a quarterback is a 3-star, a 4-star, 5-star. That doesn't mean that they're going to come into college and be college ready. It's an entirely different game. It's a grade from high school versus preparation for college.
Some guys are more ready than others, depending on what system they come out of college, or if you're going from high school to college. Depends on what kind of system you maybe ran in high school. So it takes a while to get a guy ready, and if you put him in there before he's ready, it could be a detriment.
Now, you could probably walk us through this, and Don mentioned this on the radio this week and during the broadcast. And you talked about at halftime, the Virginia game, that Malik brings some maturity, and he brings some age. He's 22, 23 years old. Coincidentally, the Virginia team, that was an older team. Boston College has 35 seniors on their team, 8 on defense, with an old defensive coordinator. And maybe Nkosi hasn't seen a lot of that stuff, but Malik probably has been exposed to some of the things.
Yeah, I mean, Malik has things in his data bank, in his memory that can come to light in the game. Matter of fact, one time he hit the back in the flat, didn't look like much, but a certain read got him to be working from a deep slant, we call a seam route, to the back. And the seam was covered, and he hit the back, and the back got about 11, 12, 13 yards. It was Travis Homer to the right. And then we called the very same play a little bit later, and the safety did something that they hadn't done all week again, and he saw it, and he went right to Cager, and it was a good third, and it was on the touchdown drive. It was 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, whatever it might have been, hit Cager right in the gut. But that happened because of reps and reps and reps of the last couple of years, and a certain coverage that didn't necessarily show up in the preparation, but all of a sudden showed up in the middle of the game. I mean, they had 2 weeks to change some things too. So his ability to draw from his experiences on those 2 particular plays, really helped him and helped us continue to move the ball and helped us score a touchdown that drive. So, things like that, are a benefit. And then we do a lot of run checks, where we may go this way or that way with a certain run. There's certain mic identifications we got to make. And, you could pretty much let your center do it, but there's certain things that a quarterback will see that the center won't see happening, that he knows something's about to go down, and he needs to alert everybody and get us in the right play.
Okay, we're going to talk about Boston College. Also, we had a dedication of the indoor practice facility, the Carol Sofer Indoor Practice Facility. We'll talk about that and much more with University of Miami head coach Mark Richt right after this. Happy to welcome you back to the Mark Richt Show, brought to you by Williamson Automotive. Joe Zagacki, Don Bailey Jr., University of Miami head coach Mark Richt. This weekend, it'll be the Hurricanes and Boston College, a Friday night affair. It'll be their red bandana game, very emotional game for them. We'll get to that in a moment, and the red bandana and all that. You did have a dedication a week ago at the Carol Sofer Indoor Practice Facility. My man was the MC, did a great job.
Don did a great job.
Yeah, he did a great job.
The guy's got spirit.
He does have spirit.
It comes to this place, that's for sure.
He loves this place.
And so it was a beautiful day.
It was a big day, no doubt. It was something that was very special to us as a program. I mean, it's truly a game changer. I know we've been saying that over and over, but it is a game changer for us as far as how we're perceived and how recruits see us when they walk into that type of a facility, and understand the commitment that it takes to do that, and understand how vital it is to truly develop our guys to the fullest. So that's big, but it's also a very big deal to the Sofer family, and Carol in particular. It's nice to see a lot of her family there. Just about everybody was able to be there, and it was just wonderful to honor her and her family for what they did for us. And without their lead gift, is not happening, and it's a thing of beauty.
I did want to ask you this, and Don mentioned it while he was the MC. We had there were players there, current players there, and Don said, I'll paraphrase, you said this is a gift to you, but you have a responsibility to give back to the University of Miami, and that can be interpreted a couple of different ways. And I always think this, Coach, that thing wasn't also built just for rainy days. If you're going to get on the field as a player, they got to impress the coach or an assistant coach. And that thing over there is built if you want to be a quarterback or running back or wide receiver, whatever it is, there's nothing stopping you from going in there.
I mean, weather will never be an issue again for us to get what we need to get done. And, you know, people always think of in season, and you should think of in season. You know, you got your practices, you know, Tuesday through Thursday basically, and you want to be able to get your work in, but you got the entire off season. You know, when the strength and conditioning staff wants to get a good lift in and then go out and get some running in or some change of direction drills or whatever it may be, if that lightning horn went off, guess what? There's nowhere to go.
Boston College, it's a Friday night game. It's their red bandana game, which honors a former Boston College athlete who saved some people during 9/11 and then lost his own life. So they honor this particular person for their red bandana game, which means it becomes very emotional for them. Is that one of the goals for you to try to match that emotion and intensity?
That would be hard to do.
Or not feed into it, I guess.
You know, really, you're educating me right now on what that meant, and so it's pretty impressive that they would do that. And I can see where it could be very emotional, you know. And football is an emotional game, and so you know, most of the time the initial emotion of the game settles into a game sooner or later, you know. But sometimes getting the first punch is as important as anything, and I know they'll be ready, and we'll be ready too.
Coach, when you're preparing this week, when you have the week off, tell us about what happens recruiting-wise and how you work the system and practice.
Being that it's an open date, we're actually able to get coaches out on a Thursday night to some games, some Friday night to some games. Even there's a Saturday afternoon game a couple of our coaches are going to go to. And I'm talking about high school games of prospects that we need to see. And so there'll be a lot of that going on, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then we'll get back to work Sunday because since it is a Friday game, normally we go Sunday, take Monday off, but we're going to go Sunday and then have to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Thursday we'll travel and then we'll hook it up, you know, so I guess 7 p.m.
I don't like Friday night football, but that's a different story. They are big.
Why are we playing
on Friday night?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
you don't like Thursday night either, Coach.
No, I don't.
I mean, this guy doesn't.
Saturday.
Saturday.
College football is meant for Saturdays.
Yeah, I agree. And I think high school football belongs on Friday nights.
I agree with that too.
Sure.
That being said, they are old and they are big. And they play a lot of tight ends, which we'll get to in our next segment. But defensively, they've got 8 seniors on defense. So I imagine that allows them to do a bunch of different things.
You know, some of them redshirt seniors and a couple redshirt juniors too. You know, you get a redshirt junior, he's a 4th-year guy. There might be 1 or 2 sophomores in there, and I think one's a redshirt sophomore. So they've been around, and you're right. They're veterans. They're physically put together. You could tell, you know, Coach has done a great job of getting them in position to be ready for a season like this, and they're playing well. I remember, I don't know who they were playing one time on TV early in the year. Might have been on another Friday night. I don't remember, but I remember watching. Might have been a Thursday night game. I'm like, gee whiz, look at this guy. And that's when they had the big back, you know. And you know, I don't know if is he supposed to be back?
Well, we don't know yet. He's had an ankle sprain or so.
That guy, yeah. I mean, he's a beast. But those other backs, last game they got 100 yards apiece, I think.
All right, you got Boston College coming up on Friday night. They're big. Don's going to bring his pads with him.
No.
You're not bringing your pads?
I'm not getting in that deal.
Okay.
No.
I'm going to bring the iPad.
No, he's got enough to worry about.
All right, Coach. Best of luck on Friday against Boston College. All right, that's University of Miami head coach Mark Richt. Don and I will continue right after this. Happy to welcome you back to the Mark Richt Show, brought to you by Williamson Automotive. Joe Zagacki and Don Bailey Jr. on Friday night. Miami and Boston College, 7 o'clock, as we mentioned with the coach. It's going to be a very emotional night for Boston College. They've always played well on Friday night. So one, you got to match their emotion, but also their physicality. 35 seniors on this team, a load on defense, 8 of their 11 starters on defense. Miami's got to match their physicality and intensity.
Probably one of the largest senior classes in the nation, and that's why everybody was so hot on Boston College coming into the year. Of course, the talent. They have talent at quarterback. They have talent at running back. They were one of the best defenses in the nation last year. And you talk physicality, immediately when I turned on my version of Boston College, I look right at the offensive line, and it's not a line, it's a wall. And they move well together, and you talk about it, 6 tight ends, but a couple of those tight ends look like tackles. So they're just a big physical team. Their head coach is an old offensive line coach, so he's going to pound it and he's going to run it, and they want to be physical. And that's their personality. It's been their personality for many, many years. They're not a finesse team. They're not a finesse school. They want to make you earn every single inch, and that's what Miami's going to have to do on Friday night.
Malik Rose here is going to be the quarterback for Miami. What does he have to do? I know in my mind I'm saying to myself, he can't make up for 3 weeks in one play, right? He didn't start for 3 weeks. So it's his chance to be on the center stage, but he can't try to make up for 3 weeks and say, hey, coach, here's what I could have done all in one play or one quarter.
He has to follow the game plan. He has to follow what he's been told since Mark Richt has been the head coach at the University of Miami. He cannot throw interceptions, try to avoid those. He cannot take unnecessary risk, and he has to understand his role as the quarterback. That is to get to the line of scrimmage, help declare the defense, and execute the play, and really try to avoid the turnover. That's been the thing that I think that hurts teams most, whether it's Miami or Alabama. It doesn't matter. That is a problem that you have to overcome. But I'm with you. He can't try and make up 3 weeks of statistics in one ball game. Win the game. That's the most important stat.
Finally, their offense, they don't want to throw. They want to run. I call it the barge. They put 8 guys, 9 guys out there, and they're just going to move. How does Miami handle the physicality of this game?
Well, I think they will. I think, Miami's defense has played some physical teams. Florida State was a physical football team. LSU was a physical football team. Those teams appear, at least on tape, to be a little bit faster, maybe a little bit quicker than Boston College. So you have that physicality under your belt, so to speak. But listen, it's Gerald Willis. Willis is a defensive tackle that has really stabilized this defense. He can cause problems for Boston College. The defensive ends can cause them. Miami's got to be athletic, but they can't get pushed. I think that's the biggest thing, and Coach Diaz will prepare them for that. There'll be stunts in place, and there'll be games in place that you can offset some of that. But when you're going against Big and Strong has forever had a hard time blocking quick and fast.
Quick and fast, I like it. All right, for Don Bailey Jr. and Mark Richt, I'm Joe Zagacki. We'll see you next time right here on the Mark Richt Show. So long, everyone.